Welcome to Feed Your Lion. I'm Dr. Jodelle Yount, and I'm here to aid you in the mastery of total health, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, and financial. So prepare to have your wellness tank filled up with this podcast. Welcome to another episode of Feed Your Lion podcast. We are on the second week of the month, which means we're talking about nutrition and fitness, but we're going to do a spin on this. Nicci Gibbs is back in the house with us, my buddy, and she's been on here before. And we kind of had a wild week this week. We went up with our significant others to, where did we go? Around Bowling Green, Ohio. Corbin.
Kentucky.
Yeah. Why did I say?
It must have been wild for you.
It was in Ohio.
Were you there?
Yes. Okay. Never mind. Yeah. Corbin, I should know that because my uncle is from there, by the way.
Toronto, Canada.
But anyways, it was a few hours. We went to Cumberland College and we saw James Clear speak. And if you guys aren't familiar with James Clear, he wrote the book Atomic Habits, a bestseller, millions of copies sold. He's been speaking on this topic of habits and systems for years. So anyways, Nicci through work got some tickets and we all went up and saw him and stayed in Corbin overnight. And then we also had the banquet this weekend for the gym and all the award things. So we've had a kind of busy week. And before we got too far out from listening to him talk, and we both read the book, and Nicci's actually done, well, tell them what you did, like a master class. Say what you did.
Yeah, no. So I have a subscription to Masterclass, which is like an online platform that uses basically like famous experts for like online learnings instead of like traditional teachers. So people like Gordon Ramsay, things like that.
Okay.
So it's I don't know, it's really neat. Like you can learn skills and stuff too.
That's
so James
cool.
Clear's on that, and he has like a 10-part session or series, I guess. They're about 10 minutes long, and he just kind of goes through the book piece by piece.
Yeah.
I use it in group too, with my substance use group at work, and it's phenomenal. We do worksheets and everything, and just learning how to build better habits and, break up old ones.
Well, and I think the thing for me, like, this is such a big deal. Like, and he talks about all the time, like, how habits and systems make or break things, right? Yeah. And it's such a huge thing because people, you hear it all the time, this is not working, it never works, I keep trying to do this, and this, and I always fail at it. Well, it's a very clear thing of your habits and your systems aren't aligned with what you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
And so I think this is a big deal. So I'm sitting here with my little notebook of notes I took from.
I have my notes on my phone.
She's got notes too. So I mean, I've read through this book 2 or 3 times, and then like I said, took notes at his conference. But I kind of want to share some of these takeaways. Why don't you start with like explaining like the actual habit loop and the like cue and craving and all that stuff real quick.
Okay, the habit loop. So the habit loop is actually something that we talk about a lot. So I'm a behavioral health clinician, and so it's not just specific to substance abuse. It's specific to any sort of behavioral issue that you might have, or any kind of behavior period. But the habit loop is actually, it's broken up into 4 stages. And so it is cue, craving, response, and reward. And so your cue is going to be your trigger. This can be environmental or it can be internal. But it's going to be the thing that triggers you to a particular to a thought that is going to lead to a craving.
And that could be anything, like a smell,
Yeah, so your external triggers are going to be things like, I always like tell people it's going to be your 5 senses, right? So smell, touch, taste, feel. I'm missing one, I'm sure. Which one is it? Here, right? Okay, so, but also,
I know. What you said. I was like,
it's like 7th grade biology.
I know.
Yeah, but also like, 2, it's like people, places, and things.
Yeah.
Right? And then external, like pain, like if you feel pain, right? But it's going to lead to a thought, And that thought is actually embedded in your reward center, right? And if you have favorable meaning tied to that trigger, it is going to lead to a craving, right? If I don't have favorable meaning tied to it, then I'm not going to crave it, right? Like if I had a bad experience at Taco Bell, I'm not going to crave it.
Yeah.
Right? Even if I see Taco Bell, even if I smell Taco Bell, even if I drive past it, if I had an unfavorable experience at Taco Bell, I'm not going to crave it.
So it's got to light up your happy places to be a craving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, so your cue, right, is going to trigger the thought, which is going to lead to the craving. And then that craving is going to be like a mental obsession, like an intense urge. And these are going to show up as like psychologically as these mental obsessions and these intense urges, but they can also show up like physiologically, things that look like restlessness and symptoms of anxiety, like racing heart, sweaty hands, like you can even like, salivating, things like that, right? But then that craving, you're going to then move into the response. And that response is also tied to like this, you're going to have this window of tolerance. And for some people, their window of tolerance is bigger than others, right? Like if you're impatient, you have a small window of tolerance, like if you're impulsive, right? But for other people, they might have, a more broad window of tolerance. And for people who are more resilient, they can withstand this window of tolerance a little more than others.
And you're talking too about like some intense like habit cravings. Like some of the things are like more subtle that we do. Like,
yeah, but even things like sugar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like sugar's not super intense, right? And we still can't say no to it.
Well, sugar's like on the level of heroin, I think, for addictiveness.
Okay,
so that can be kind of.
But let's talk about procrastination.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
how, impulsively we put things off. We look for other things to do so that we can do the hard thing last.
Right.
So
Right.
like, yeah, more intense things, but also not.
Yeah.
Like we still crave the reward right now. I don't have to deal with that hard thing.
Right.
And put it off, right? But yeah, this window of tolerance is just basically, like how much do I want to deal with this right now or not? How much can I deal with the feeling of, the craving or not? Can I say no to it? And then based on that window of tolerance, if you can say no to it or not, or if you need to, then it leads to the reward, right?
Yeah. And that's why you repeat the cycle.
Yeah, that's why you repeat the cycle. And listen, not all cravings are bad, right? We have them for a reason. It's not bad to crave things that are good for you.
Yeah.
We're supposed to, right? We're supposed to crave food. We're supposed to crave movement, right? We're supposed to crave reproduction even.
Yeah.
Those things are good for us, but like sometimes like we indulge ourselves and that's where it can, and pleasure, like we indulge pleasure and it can lead to habits that are out of control.
So we got our little loop down. So there's 4 things, and he goes into detail in the book, and we can give a few examples here, but there's like 4 things if you're trying to build a habit that you can do to either take away from habits that you don't want to have or add to habits that you do want to have. So those 4 things are make it obvious. Number 2 is make it attractive. Number 3 is make it easy. And number 4 is make it more satisfying. So I'm gonna take the first one. So I tend to waste a lot of like time with TV sometimes when I want some downtime. And that's a habit that I don't like. Now, the first one is make it obvious. Where do the majority of Americans have a TV sitting? Right
in the living room.
Right in the middle. Like it's like the middle highlight of our living room. Right. And I think he mentioned this book, I don't remember, but I do know that, like, to me, that sticks out because you have, if you want to avoid it, but right when you walk in the room, that's the first thing you're seeing, right?
Right.
So there was some tips given for how to make it not as obvious. Well, give it a little bit of a friction, he says. Make it just a little bit harder, because if you have to work just a little bit harder, you may not indulge in that habit, right? So, for example, instead of make the TV out, and this may not be feasible for everybody, but put it in a closet. Put it away. Something where you have to do an extra step or 2 to get to it so it's not as obvious and not right there. So that's kind of an example of number 2. Do you have anything for make it attractive?
So for making it attractive, we want to basically adopt habits that are, like we want to bundle them, like with temptation, right? So this is true too, like if you, for example, we want to couple the habit with a reward,
Yeah.
right? Like if I do something that is good, for example, if I, like, I'm kind of a gym rat,
Yeah.
right? But if I weren't and I did go to the gym, then I might praise myself or reward myself after maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks of disciplined gym time with maybe a new gym outfit, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe, a night out, like with a dinner, but like a healthy dinner,
Yeah.
right? But also you can do the inverse of that. So with temptation bundling, like, good with good and
Yeah.
pair it, but also negative with negative, right? So there was an example that I read one time where this man wanted to, he spent a lot of time on social media, and so he wanted to spend less time on his phone. And so in order to unlock his phone, he'd put an app on his phone so that the only way he could unlock the phone was if it recognized him doing push-ups in front of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then he's going to be less likely to get on the phone if he has to do the push-ups in front of it.
Yes.
So the negative with the negative, but then also the positive with the positive.
Yeah. Yeah. So make it easy is the next one. And I have an example for this. So if you're already doing something every day, it's a lot easier to put something else with that. Like if you have a consistent pattern of doing something. So every morning I'm eating breakfast, and I like to eat the same breakfast at around the same time. Every day I walk the dogs, I eat my breakfast. It's in my routine. Well, I've been trying to get doing Spanish every day forever. Okay? So for me, and it's been helpful. I'm on 3 weeks now, my little Duolingo, but to me, now I do it right when I have breakfast, because our brains don't want to have to think about all this stuff. We have a lot of stuff to process. Our brains are very pattern recognition oriented. So if I know at the same time that I'm eating breakfast, I'm going to do 10 minutes of Spanish every day. It's easy for me because it's something I'm already doing. I don't have to think about it. I know with breakfast I'm doing Spanish. So that to me makes it easy to do.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing as what you said. You can reverse that and make something a little harder. Like I have to do this before this, like make it a step harder again. But that's for me a good example that I've been using lately that's helped me with like the Spanish lessons. So, and number 4 is make it more satisfying, which with the gym clothes, I thought of that, like something like that too, that like.
Can I jump back to number 3 for a
Yes,
second? Okay,
yeah.
because like with the make it easy one, the one that I remembered was him talking about the 2-minute rule. Do you remember that one?
Tell me.
So he was saying
Oh,
that
you can
basically
do
like
anything for 2 minutes. Yes.
Well, okay, so that was the way I spun it, right?
Okay.
But the way that he spins it is he says that like, okay, if you have a goal,
Yeah.
like a big one,
Yeah.
right? It's really difficult to commit to a big goal sometimes. Like we have these big dreams, like I want to do this big thing. And sometimes like it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
So we can condense that, right? So for example, if you have this big dream to, I want to be the person that goes to the gym, then, or I want to lose 10 pounds, right? That can be overwhelming for some people, right? So what can we do to condense that to make it easier? Well, I can walk every day. Well, for some people, even that's difficult to manage the time to do. Well, I can walk from, my car. I can park further away and walk from my car to the entrance of Walmart even, right? Like you condense it and you make it easier. I can wear tennis shoes instead of flats, which will make it easier for you to engage in the activity that will lead to the goal.
Yeah.
So, but my 2-minute rule, right, which, I invented for myself, is that if it takes less than 2 minutes to do, go ahead and do it and get it out of the way.
Get it done. Well, that's a productivity thing too.
It is. It's not James Clear productivity rule. That's a me productivity rule.
There's something about like if you look at anything and it's less than that time, go ahead and knock it off, because your brain's still thinking about that and it can take away from other things.
One less thing.
Yeah. So, and it's a quick, easy win. So that's a whole other thing. But
Yeah, but with the make it satisfying thing, so I
Number
do
4.
this a lot, but I am a list maker. Okay,
You
and
like to cross off, don't
I
you?
love to cross it off.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm kind of a weirdo.
No, it's
because
not
I will
weird.
make no, but I am because because I will make the list and I will cross the things off and then I will do extra stuff throughout the day and then I will go and add it to the list when it wasn't on it just so I can cross it off.
Oh my gosh, that's
I know,
hilarious.
because it feels so good to cross it off. It feels like an accomplishment, and especially for people who have like symptoms of like ADD, like there's reward in that. It's almost like little baby trophies.
Yeah.
You know, you're giving yourself like a little high five every time like you check it off. Like you make it satisfying. And so when you do that, when you dose yourself this reward, right, you sort of like you get the ball rolling, right? You get this momentum going in the right direction. And then that you carry that with you for the rest of the day.
Well, and this is kind of goes with both attractive and satisfying, I guess. But I also like to, like I said, I like my TV, and I'm not watching it just usually anymore, like just sitting around. But if I have to do a cardio session, I like to watch something while I do that. So I'm doing something that I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm pairing it with something fun that I enjoy.
So you're
So that's kind of like, but I can, like, that's the time, because the whole point is to get the workout in.
yeah.
So
yeah.
my point is, like, I'm doing it with something I find fun that I wouldn't do just sitting around or trying not to do.
So it's almost kind of too like something else you mentioned called like habit stacking.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like you already do this one thing. Let me just
Yeah.
add this other thing on top of it.
Yeah, but the one's not a good habit.
The TV?
Yeah.
Well, depending on
That's
what you're
fun.
watching.
That's true. If I'm
You know what I
documentary.
mean? If you're watching Masterclass, James Clear it is.
There you go. Okay, so that's our 4 things. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it more satisfying. So those are some things you can do if you want to help a habit, or you want to like avoid temptation, do the opposite of those things. So that's another point. His other big thing is 1% improvement all the time. So like you said initially at the start, a lot of times we try to like think of these huge goals, right? This end point. Instead of just like, okay, and I want to talk about identity in here too, because
that's my favorite one.
That's a good, and we're going to shift to that. But like, you know, you don't have to do like these huge, massive things right at the front. You're looking for tiny changes that'll eventually add up, and it's like the same in finance with compound interest. It's adding this 1% every day, and eventually, and if you do the logarithmic mathematical equation, it's like 37 point something. It's almost 40 times better over a course of a year.
Yeah.
Where it's the opposite if you're doing 1% less every day or worse, that ends up at like pretty much close to 0 by the end of the year. So the point is, these small things really add up over time, and that's like the part of getting your system and your habits in alignment. And it's also shifting your identity. And like, if you want to start with that, we can. Like
with identity or still with 1%?
Well, whatever you want to add to that before we go to identity.
Okay. Well, I mean, like whenever we were at the seminar, he talked about, and he talks about this in Masterclass too, about how the British Olympic cycling
I think
team.
I wrote his name down. It's Dave Brailsford.
Yeah, well, so I can't remember what year it was, early 2000s, right? Like they had like almost a 100-year span of not winning like almost any medals. And then they wanted to win gold within 5 years. And so in order to do that, they'd already had all of these, they already had a system, right? Like all of the teams that were training already had a system. And so the coach that they hired decided, okay, well, what are we going to do that's different?
Yeah.
What are we going to do that's going to set us apart and train ourselves to be different? And so they started implementing these changes, things like, you know, the aerodynamics of the tire. They got smaller tires. They changed the seats on the bike. They changed, you know.
They even painted everything white inside so they could see dust.
On the, They, you know, tested pillows to, you know,
they
make
did a hand washing clinic.
Yes.
To reduce germs.
Yeah, prevent sickness.
Pillows.
And even like what they were wearing, they did like an indoor-outdoor suit or something, and found out that the indoor one had the least amount of resistance. But anyway, over the next, they wanted to win it in 5 years, and then it literally only took 3 years.
Yeah.
And then after that 3 years, they won gold. But then the next 5 out of the 6 years, they won gold medals. There was only 1 year that they didn't. And, like you mentioned, like that it's 37 times better, but it's these little changes that we make, right? Like we think that they're not that big of a deal. Like, so what does that look like in real life?
Yeah. Yeah.
What does a 1% change look like in real life? Well, it looks like taking the stairs.
Yeah. Yeah. Drinking.
It looks like drinking
an
water.
extra cup of water.
It looks like going to bed earlier.
Yeah.
It looks like taking your medicine on time.
Well, and that's the point of, like, in a day, you may not see anything, right? Like you're not gonna be able to tell somebody who does, like, takes a bad habit or a good habit over one day, but if you look at this thing over time,
right?
That's a huge deal.
Yeah.
So.
And part of it too is recognizing, like, what are my habits?
Yeah.
Like being honest with yourself, like, what are my habits? What are the good ones and what are the bad ones? Like, what parts of my life do I need to clean up? Like, what is actually serving me and what is costing me?
2 things he said in that: be the architect of your habits, not the victim.
Yes.
That's exactly what you're saying. And excellence is not about radical changes, but about small changes over time. So.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the, it's this compound interest ideal of slow, small self-improvement changes that equal something big.
And 2, not quitting when you don't see the results that you want.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
Like, because it is the compound interest, right? Like, just because if I put a quarter, in the bank every single day for the next year, like, initially that's not going to look like a lot, right? But if I don't quit putting that quarter in there, what's that going to look like a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now?
Well, it's the ice thing too. He used the ice melting. So, like, you're going to be having these temperature increases for however long until you get to that right temperature where you see the ice cube melting, right? It's not like a pointless thing. It's not, it's your work is being put in there. It is actively moving.
Right.
You gotta have the patience and the grit and the see-through to continue.
Right.
I
Absolutely.
mean, that's just, so, but that was a good transition to identity.
Yes, which is my absolute
Okay, go ahead.
favorite.
You start rolling with that.
Well, I'm a firm believer that, like, just because you are who you are right now doesn't mean you can't wake up tomorrow and be a completely different person.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, you get to decide who you want to be. And your decisions, every decision that you make is a vote for the person that you want to become. And, it's in the decisions we make when nobody's watching. It's in the decisions that we make when people are. So every decision that you make matters. It affects your character. You get to decide. The architect is the word that you use, that he used.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, it's just, who do you want to be? And a lot of people, here's the thing. I want to be a better person. I want to be a good person. Well, okay, great. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Define that.
Yeah.
Further define that.
Yeah.
Like, who exactly do you want to be? What does it mean to be a good person? You have to know who you want to be in order to become that person. And, it just means you have to sit down with yourself and take some time to really figure out what that looks like. And, once you figure out what that person looks like, then develop a plan, a system, right?
To become that
And execute it.
So I want to give some specifics because, Lainey, I'm going to use you. Lainey, our video girl, we were talking about smoking the other day, right? So how many people when they're quitting smoking will say, "Oh, I'm trying to quit," when somebody asks them for a cigarette, but they usually end up going back to that, right? Versus there's a completely different mind shift or identity shift when they say, "I'm not a smoker."
Yeah.
You're no longer identifying as, versus somebody saying, no, I'm trying to quit, right? You're still identifying yourself as a smoker. It's much easier versus really taking on that new identity of, no, I'm not a smoker, right?
Yeah.
It's a totally different thing. Same thing with, okay, maybe your big goal that you want is, I want to produce a best-selling book, right? But who's the identity you have to take on to be that? I'm a writer. What does a
Right.
writer do? A writer writes every day, right?
Right.
That's a priority. So these identity shifts, they're determining who you're becoming.
Right.
And so but you have to like believe that too. Like how many times he talked about something funny, which is true. Like, and I know people like this. I'm thinking of a good friend of mine, but that's always like, I'm just always late. I'm
Yeah.
always late, like, but we take on these, it doesn't have to be big things, but we take on these things like I'm not good at directions. I'm not good at this. Like you're taking on that identity, and you don't have to lie or be dishonest with yourself. But you can take the positive version of that. You don't have to like take on these negative traits as like they're your part of your who you are, and we do that.
Well, and I think too, it's like, okay, so I work in the field of recovery.
Right.
Right. And so a lot of times whenever, someone would introduce themselves, they'll say, "Hi, my name is," and I'm an addict.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that it's not true to them, right? But, are you an addict right now, or are you in recovery? And I will challenge someone to consider how they identify themselves. And, a lot of times what I'll hear is, well, I don't want to forget where I came from. And again, I will challenge them, was there a time when you weren't one?
Yeah.
Because it matters, again, who you believe that you are. Because
That's right.
if you identify as something and you believe that's who you are, then there's a piece of you that will give yourself permission to be that person.
100%.
Right? And it's not like,
Yeah.
you don't want to give yourself permission to be someone that you don't want to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can say, I'm a recovering addict. You're not lacking in humility, and you're not forgetting your roots. But I always challenge people to, and I would never, if someone wants to identify that, like it's totally up to the person. But, it does matter who you believe yourself to be, because that is who you will show up as.
No, it does. And you can still claim that victory before.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I love writing. It's a thing. But like, I was like, for a long time, I was like, I don't feel like I'm a writer till I've got 5 books published. Like that in my head, I don't know why. It was just some number, but I'm like, I have 3, and I've got like 4 that I've like started working on here and there. And I'm like, you know what? That you are a writer. Like, stop like just claim that. Like,
Because you're writing.
Yeah, because I'm writing. Like, just claim what you are, and take ownership of that, because that does mold. It does shape what your course looks like. And you're right, what you believe about yourself. We have the power in our minds and in our and how we show up. We have the powers to like build empires or destroy them.
Right.
Build others up or destroy them. Like
Right.
we have these like this whole power, and we are our own like worst like. It's not these outside things, right? Yeah, sure, there's luck and there's things that happen, but really we can control what we're doing on a daily basis. We can control how we talk to ourselves and how we identify ourselves. Like, we can control all those things, and we can control how we show up or we don't.
Right.
And like, so I think that's really like the basis of why this is so important. Because you can't control other people. You can't control what luck or random events happen or environmental things, but you can control your habits, these daily habits that make these systems.
Right.
That can send you down a path.
Right. Absolutely.
And I think that's the important part of this.
And I think too, like with respect to what you said about like not being able to control the environment around you, once you decide who you are and what your habits are, like, it's important not to let the environment around you influence what those habits are. Like, you solidify your habits and your identity, and you don't allow interruptions or distractions.
Yeah, well,
because we can be so easily like, he talks about friction, right? And there's a part in, I don't remember if he talks about this in the book or not, but I know he talks about it in master class. He talks about like during the period of COVID, how you know, employers moved vending machines down the hall because it decreased the amount of time that employees spent on their breaks, right? They didn't want to walk all the way down the hall to go get snacks, right? But also during COVID, when people were at home, they worked where? In their kitchens and in their living rooms.
Yeah.
And so the amount of time that they spent in their kitchens was very, very frequent. Right? So when the friction is reduced, we will engage in something a lot more, in something that we don't want to a lot more, right? So if I have developed a habit and I want to become a person with that habit, then I have to protect my identity and I have to protect that habit regardless of what environmental factors may come into play, right? I think about like the winter and how, you know, when it's cold outside or if it rains, how quick we are to pull the plug on leaving to go to the gym. You know what I mean? It's raining, I'll go tomorrow. You know,
Yes.
like it takes very little amount of anything
To affect anything.
to affect anything. You know, you'll go to work.
Well, you know, there's another story. I read this. This was like a research thing in my nutrition class, but this is hilarious. They did a study about in hospitals, and they used like diet drinks and water. And all the diet and pops and stuff were up by the cash register. All they did was simply put all the drinks and stuff back in their coolers or like, you know, like whatever, like not close to the thing. And they moved all the waters to the most accessible, easy place on the cafeteria checkout. Their water sales went up by 30%
Right.
and their diets went down by 30%. And all they did was switch the layout and make it more. So we're very, like that friction thing is a real thing.
Yeah.
If you introduce a little bit one way or another,
Or take it away.
yeah, or take it away. You're right. It does have, and also like, I want to say he mentioned when he was talking to you about like the seasons. Like sometimes there's different seasons in your life. Like, you know, he talked about when he had kids, like that really like changed some things. It's not necessarily bad, but sometimes you do have to adapt to new ways of doing things, and how quickly you adapt can determine a success level too. So you might have to, you know, adapt when things come along like that. So it's not always going to be, you know, it's got to be like this. You got to have some flexibility to be able to change as needed depending on the season you're in life too.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, you looked like you
no.
wanted to say something.
No, I mean, you're right. Like, I think that we do have to, you know, our lives change, and we have to adapt to our lives accordingly, right? Like, I can't keep the same habits that I had when I was 15, right?
That
Like,
right.
I've got to have different habits now. I'm older, and, you know, self-care looks a lot different now than it did then.
Yeah,
You know, and self-care looks a lot like self-control.
yeah,
It's not just, you know, I was just talking about this the other day. Self-care is not just, you know, candles and bubble bath anymore.
no,
It
yeah.
is,
It's the harder things.
it's your health.
Yes,
You know, it's making sure that
yes.
I'm doing what's best for me and that I'm taking care of myself the way that I would take care of my kids. It's saying no.
I'm
It's
glad
saying
you,
no
I'm
to
glad
myself.
you said that, because I get so annoyed sometimes when people talk about self-care and they're talking about easy things all the time. Like, self-care is getting your butt to the gym, woman. Like, self-care is not eating them extra donuts.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's also loving yourself.
Oh, that is how you love yourself, right?
mean,
I had a friend one time. He's a phenomenal person in my life, and he told me I was going through a season, right? And he said, you know, you just need to love yourself. And this was before I'd gone to like school for like counseling
Yeah.
or anything like that, and I was just like, ugh. what does that even mean? Like, like that just sounds so like foo-foo,
Hokey.
what does that even mean? And to beat it all, like, is that really like how you're going to work me through this right now? Like, that does not help me. Like what? But so anyway, and I was like, what does that mean? I was aggravated that he even said it. And he was like, the way that you love your kids, that's the way you need to love yourself. And I was still aggravated when he said it. So, but anyway, I go home and, I care a lot about him. He cared a lot about me. So I valued what he had to say. And so I thought about it, and I was like, how do I love my kids? How do they know that I love them? And, here's how they know, I take care of them.
Yeah.
I make sure they go to the doctor. I feed them. I make sure they have good friends. I make sure they go to bed at night. I make sure that they feel loved. If they're having a hard day, I'm there for them. If they're hard on themselves, I talk them through it. Like all of these things that I will do for them to make sure that they don't feel alone in this world and that they're cared for. I wasn't doing for myself. That I make sure that they're in communities and that they're that they have circles.
Yeah.
And I was just not doing that for myself. And so then it was then that I realized there's a huge difference between self-soothing and then self-love, self-care, and then, when I realized that, I started showing up differently in my life,
And I also would say that when you do start showing up, it's not easy. You're going to have some falls and things like that. And I think that's another thing. People get really frustrated. They get, they mess up or whatever, especially when they're really trying to make a change. But it's okay to do that. And honestly, making progress is failing forward, repeatedly.
Well, it's not linear.
It's not a linear thing. You're going to have ups and downs, but how quickly you can take that and move on. You don't want to have a day two. And we've talked about that before. You don't
miss twice.
Don't miss twice. Get right back up on the horse, because the quicker you can rebound and keep going, because even the greats at everything have bad days, have a bad practice, miss a workout once in a while. They're you're gonna have those things, but you got to get back up and keep going forward.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other thing. It's not stewing in it, not sitting in the failure and the disappointment.
And I think to kind of rope that into the habits is to say that self-love is also, understanding how you are contributing to, your own life, right?
Yeah.
So developing self-awareness. So again, how are the choices that I'm making affecting the direction and the course of my life? Are the habits, are the patterns, even the way that I think, are these serving me? Mm-hmm. Are they serving the identity that I want to create for myself? And, that's really loving yourself, is challenging, because there's sometimes we don't want to let go of our habits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we like them.
Yeah. And
we love them.
And not even that. You could have dropped a habit for a while, and the minute you're back in something, it's easy to pick it right back up, because your brain is patterned. You remember that.
Yeah.
It's easy. So, okay, I wanted another point I was looking through here a second ago. Do you remember what the Goldilocks thing is?
Yeah, that's the sweet spot, right?
Sweet spot, yeah. Do you remember you're supposed to add the percentage, because you
it's
were
4%, right?
Look at you. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, no, I'm diehard James Clear.
I love
kind of weirdo about it.
You said that 5 times now.
Because I am.
Your list, and then the.
I know. You're welcome.
Okay. So the Goldilocks, like she said. So it's another concept was, you don't want to be in anything that's way too hard. He gave the example of if you're playing tennis against Serena Williams, you're probably not gonna stick with it. You're I'm done. Same thing if you're playing with a 5-year-old, not hard enough, right? You want the sweet spot. So somebody who's closer to your level, or just a little bit better, you're gonna work harder. So he said 4%. He said out of 10 times, the sweet spot would be you're losing about 3 times of that.
I have a perfect example of this.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so
let's hear it.
Okay, so my husband plays pickleball. He's a lot better at it than I am. And because he loves it and he plays it so much. But my lifestyle is a little different than his. It doesn't afford me. I cannot go play like that much amount of time. Right.
Right.
So anyway, for me, like pickleball is kind of like Netflix.
Yeah.
Like I just show up and I just want to kind of like play around a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I'm not very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I do enjoy it. So when I go play, he's playing, against what I would consider to be elite level pickleball athletes. And it is like embarrassing for me to show up and play on his team with them. And so I'm like, I'll just watch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'll just watch. But also, like, I don't think he would pick me to be on his team either.
Well.
Because I'm the 5-year-old.
Well, but that's.
You know what I mean?
That's the point. So if you want to get better, get around people that are just slightly better.
7-year-olds.
Wow, the way we take it can go off the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, but consistency is the key to any of it.
It is.
I mean, really, you don't have to be crazy intense about something. If you're doing a little bit every day, I told you my 10 minutes of Spanish. One day I'll get there. If you're doing something for like 10 minutes a day, and you do that every day consistently versus somebody who maybe does something for 4 hours one day and then doesn't touch it again for a year. You're going to make those improvements.
Well, you're solidifying these neural pathways in your brain, right? Like
Yes.
you're literally rewiring your brain. That's how it works. And
Yeah.
so the more times you do it, the more you repeat something, the more that's the process of learning,
Yes.
right? And so if you've got these breaks, it's not like you're not going to learn it. It's just going to take longer.
Yes.
So even if it is 10 minutes today, the next day, you are going to learn it a lot quicker than if you did like an hour here, an hour there.
Yep. Yep.
It's the consistency.
100%. So, anything else you want to talk about? Like, we've kind of covered a lot of stuff. Like,
Almost all of it, I think.
was there something else? I was trying to look to see if there was anything. I did want to mention this, the 10-year versus the 1-hour mindset. So again,
Okay.
that's your goal system. I just liked how he said that. You can have this distant goal, but like, what can I do in the next hour that's going to put me a step closer to that?
Right.
So I think like, Rob, is there anything else you want to add before I hear? Because I kind of want to do a call to action a little bit of like.
You're going to do a call to action?
I'm talking about for like whoever
Not
listens. For whoever listens.
Okay, yeah.
You just were like, oh God.
I got kind of excited for a second. Okay.
We can do it too.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, if you're listening to this and you know you've got some habits or some systems that aren't working and they're not putting you closer to who you want to be, I just want, Nicci and I both want you to do this. Like, take one thing. It doesn't have to be crazy. One thing that you can do and that you can consistently do for 2 minutes a day. That's all we're asking, 2 minutes. Build on it from there. But whether that's putting on some gym shoes and, walk in for 2 minutes. Maybe you're going to do jumping jacks for 2 minutes. Whatever it is, something that you can do every day for 2 minutes until it's ingrained, and then you can build from there. And maybe it's something the opposite that you need to do 2 minutes less, 2 minutes less of social media, 2 minutes less of tea, whatever it is. But give 2 minutes that's like working you towards that identity of who you want to be and where you want to see yourself go. And use that as your starting thing there.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say?
Decide who you want to be. Yeah.
All right. So as always, we're going to end. And Nicci and I are going to be doing more of these when it comes to nutrition and health. So just, look forward to seeing our faces, I guess. As always, we're going to end with a quote. And this one is, the heaviest weight in the gym is the front door. And that's Ed Lattimore. We'll see you the next time.